Good evening, guys. Good evening. This is Dr. Joel Boyce, and I am just jumping on this live because I want to answer a question that one of my clients asked me, and they were specifically interested in social and emotional learning. That's a term that's thrown around a lot in our curriculum development these days. There's usually about three big ones that people are talking about. Entrepreneurs who want to make an impact in schools: it's social and emotional learning, financial literacy, wealth building, and entrepreneurship. There's really four. Those are the ones that most people kind of have their hand in one of those pots. And they wanted to know, can you tell me a little bit more about how SEL can be something that I could use to get into school? So I want to talk about it, about how it's used in curriculum development and what you could do if you want to incorporate it into an existing curriculum framework or build something that's around SEL solely. There are different ways to do this. There are other programs that exist out there that are from big box vendors. And so you may decide that you want to come in a different way. You want to make it more personalized to young people. You want to make it where it really appeals to a younger generation more than a one size fits all approach. And so I just want to talk about SEL, and we can look at what could be a good entry point for you. So SEL is increasingly popular. And I would probably say post pandemic, it has become more of a topic that schools are willing to invest in. Our students and our staff have still not adjusted well to coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our young people are still experiencing different deficits academically, behaviorally, even in terms of their attendance that have not been closed after the pandemic has been over now for several years. So schools want to address the emotional needs of their students that impact their behavior, their attendance, and their academic performance. We talked today about the measurable outcomes that your SEL curriculum should address. And those are the three areas we're going to talk about. Really, we're going to add one more with the graduation rate. But academic performance, that's on local, state, national assessments. Behavior, and that's suspension rate. That's disciplinary infractions and attendance. If kids aren't in school, they can't learn. And then graduation rate for high school, which it kind of encompasses everything about how well we can get our students to graduate within a four-year cohort. All of that is impacted by SEL. I want to talk a little bit about that. But again, funding has now been allocated for SEL post-pandemic because schools are struggling and districts are realizing that they've got to address the root problem and not just some of the symptoms of what's going on. SEL programs should be aligned with one of the four areas, and I mentioned it briefly, but let me just quickly go into them. Discipline. The suspension rate is a measurable outcome. We look at that on a regular basis. How many kids are getting in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension? But not just that. They're also looking at disciplinary infractions. How many write-ups are they receiving? How many office referrals are they receiving? And your SEL curriculum, you've got to be able to show that you can reduce those numbers. So if they implement whatever your program is called, by the end of the time that it's been implemented in the classroom, that the infractions are down, the suspensions are down. Attendance. This is probably one of the hardest things, especially in urban environments, when our young people just don't come to class. And so how does your curriculum improve their love of going to school, improve their engagement, where young people are missing fewer classes, being tardy fewer times to classes? That's a measurable outcome that's actually part of our school report cards. I don't care what state you're in. I live in Georgia. Part of our CCRPI is our attendance rate. We're looking at the number of kids who miss fewer than 10% of their enrolled time. And if you can help to improve that number, that's a metric that we actually are looking at on our state report card. So I want you to think about that as you're pitching to schools, figure out what's valuable to us. Academic performance, I think this goes without saying, but most people think that we are really worried about our test scores, but not just the state test. We're talking about local benchmarks in the district. We're talking about statewide things and any national tests that we have. Even though it's kind of hard to make a causal link between my program being implemented and improving on test scores, it's still something that's worth mentioning, worth looking at, that your program can improve academic performance. And then lastly, if you work with a high school, the graduation rate is king. All of these things come together, and it's our ability to graduate our seniors in a four-year cohort or even a fifth-year cohort. We've got to be able to get them in and out of high school. So you got to show how can you improve engagement, attendance, performance that will overall boost our graduation rate if we work in a high school. SELs are looking to see some of the following measurable, schools looking to see some of the following measurable outcomes as your SEL program. We want to see, like I said, a reduction in the number of students who are getting referrals. who are having disciplinary actions taken against them, a statistically significant improvement in attendance. Not just something that's very marginal, but a statistically significant or an increase in attendance rate, something that we can actually measure and show growth. If our graduation rate or if our attendance rate was 90% at the end of implementing this program, your SEL program helped us get to 93%. A 3% gain is statistically significant and measurable change in our students' academic performance. That's a harder one to make a causal link because other academic programs are going on, classroom instruction is going on. But if you can show improvement on our state test scores or local or district benchmarks, that's a great thing. And lastly, improving that graduation rate is always going to help. When schools are considering an SEL program, we want to know how is this going to move the needle? How is it going to improve our measurable outcomes? Everything is about data. So if your program is not data-driven or is not data-focused, it's unlikely we're going to buy it because we are driven and governed by data. Entrepreneurs, you guys, do your homework. You have to be able to prepare answers about what your program does to address these measurable outcomes. Don't leave it up to me as the administrator to figure out how you're going to improve my attendance, my discipline, my academic performance, my grad rate. You got to show me. Make sure you give it to me up front so I know why I should partner with you. That's critical. Also, school districts do not want to do the work. That is a lazy approach. Never leave it up to them because if you leave it up to them, they're not going to buy from you. Show them you've done your research. Show them that you read our CCRPI report or our state report card. Show us that you know what our values are. Show us that you read our school improvement plan that's on our website. Show us that you know what matters to us, that our focus this year is on attendance rate. Our focus this year is on reducing our disciplinary infractions. Do your homework on us. It's almost like a date. Like I always give this example, before you take a nice young lady or a nice young man out to a restaurant that you're just going to spend a whole bunch of money and you know it's going to be a home run, make sure you know, do they like this kind of food? If they're a vegetarian, you're not going to take them to a steakhouse because you've done your research, you know what they like, you can make an informed decision. It's the same thing about pitching to schools. Do your research on them so you know exactly what it is that they value and what their overall measurable outcomes are. The 5 most effective SEL focuses that are usually aligned to CASEL's framework. There are 5 competencies that are the things that we mention them. Anybody who does teach SEL, you know these 5 things. Your program needs to address these in different ways if you have an SEL curriculum because these are like the staples. And again, CASEL's framework is pretty much the Bible for what many programs are using. They're focusing on self-management. How well can I govern myself and my emotions? Self-awareness. Do I understand my motivations? Do I understand myself? Social awareness. Can I develop sympathy and, more importantly, empathy for others? Can I put myself in someone else's shoes? Responsible decision-making. I think that goes without saying. And if you work in a school, all of our kids need help with responsible decision-making. And lastly, relationship building. That's a lost art, but many of our young people don't know how to build relationships. So how does your program help them to build positive, healthy relationships with their peers who are like-minded and are moving in a positive direction? Your program should focus on those 5 areas. Those are the core tenets of an SEL curriculum. Also, they should teach them how to be able to make good decisions because we are trying to get them ready to be post-secondary, ready for life. When they graduate from high school, are they ready to walk into the workforce, the military, college, or some 2-year program and be able to be productive citizens? Your SEL curriculum should equip them with the skills they need to be effective in doing that. Some SEL curricula are also aligned with complementary concepts or programs. You will hear some schools say, I'm a PBIS school, positive behavior interventions and supports. Some of them are character education schools. You can merge them together and show that they together as in a different in a marriage, but I want to make sure that if that's going to be the focus of the school, you show them how, if you're a PBIS school, here's how my SEL curriculum can help you to align with your focuses for your young people. Also, entrepreneurs who want to increase your appeal to schools are going to intentionally do those things. You want to make sure you can hit more than one pot of money. So if you know you have an SEL program or they're a PBIS school, but you want to get that contract, show your SEL program how you can boost their PBIS performance. There's a way to do it, but I want you to be cognizant of it. That means you have to know your audience. Lastly, SEL curriculum can also partner with high priority concepts such as personal finance, which is a favorite of mine. That's a big one. But if you are good with managing money, then you are good with self-management. If you are good with networking, then you are great with responsible decision making. If you are great with branding and marketing and creating a logo and a mission statement and a business plan, you probably have great self-awareness because, again, you're able to show that you understand who you are, why you're valuable, and what you bring to the table. So you can make SEL and personal finance work together. If that's what you want to do, you just do it intentionally. So these are things that I want to make sure that I mention to you, that if you're going to do an SEL curriculum, you want to make sure that it's tied to schools' measurable objectives, but you also want to make sure that it is aligned to complementary concepts such as PBIS, character ed, or in some cases, personal finance, wealth building, entrepreneurship. There are all kinds of ways to do it. Again, guys, my name is Dr. Joel Boyce. I am a high school assistant principal. I'm a curriculum developer. I am an editor. I'm a person who helps get you between where you are and where you're trying to go to meet the needs of schools, helping you create a curriculum. Whether you want my team and I to do it in a done-for-you approach, we create everything for you that's aligned to your vision, or you want me to help you to create it on your own and you're a do-it-yourselfer, I have options for that. I would love to teach you how you can secure high-paying school contracts by creating a program, a curriculum that meets the needs of schools and is state standard aligned. Come grab a copy of my new book if you'd love to. It's called Cracking the Code, the Blueprint for Entrepreneurs to Secure High-Paying Contracts with Schools. You can follow me on Instagram at JCBEdPro, or you can go on my website at www.jcbedpro.com, and let's find a way to work together, whether you build it yourself or I create it for you. Create a curriculum that's going to make an impact in schools and change the lives of young people. I love to work with you.